Have you ever wondered what's really going on inside a giant company like Bata? Well, their annual report isn't just a bunch of boring numbers. It's actually their game plan. So today, we're going to decode it. We're breaking down Bata India's entire 2025 report to see how they performed, what moves they made, and where they're stepping next. And really, that's the big question, isn't it? Because the last fiscal year, it was definitely not a walk in the park for anyone in retail. We're about to see exactly how this iconic brand managed to navigate some pretty serious economic turbulence. Okay, first things first, let's set the scene. Before we can really appreciate Bata's strategy, you have to understand the world they were operating in. And let's just say, for fiscal year 2025, retailers were sailing into some major headwinds. I mean, just look at this list. It was kind of a perfect storm. You had sluggish demand, which means people just weren't in a shopping mood. On top of that, discretionary spending was way down. So things like a new pair of shoes, yeah, those were getting cut from the budget. Then you literally throw in a crazy heat wave that kept people indoors, and an election season that always seems to slow things down. It was a brutal environment to be in. So faced with all of that, what did Bata do? Did they just sit back and wait for the storm to pass? No way. They rolled out a really specific, multi-part strategy with some very clever counter moves. And this quote from the report, it says it all. This is their mission statement for the year. The keyword here is pivot. For a brand that's been around forever and is known for being reliable, to suddenly shift focus to style and youthfulness, that's a big, bold bet. But it's one they felt they had to make to stay relevant. So how do you scream, "We're young and cool" to the world? Well, you team up with the people who are already seen that way. By bringing in these new age celebrities, Bata wasn't just selling shoes anymore. They were tapping into pop culture, making a direct play for a younger, more fashion-forward crowd. And this wasn't just a marketing gimmick. They backed it up with the right products. Their casual line, Floats, was a runaway hit. I mean, think about it. Comfortable, easy to clean, and stylish. It's exactly what people wanted. It did so well, they had to roll it out to over 200 more stores. That's how you know the strategy is working. And Floats wasn't doing it alone. The whole game was what they called portfolio casualization. That's a fancy way of saying they leaned hard into their more casual brands, like their athleisure brand, Power, for the sneakerheads, and of course, the globally famous Hush Puppies, for that perfect mix of comfort and class. They were meeting people where they are now, living in more casual, versatile shoes. Now, while the brand was getting this flashy makeover on the outside, the engine room was getting a serious tune-up. They were getting leaner and more efficient behind the scenes. And these moves weren't just about saving a few bucks. No, this was about building up a war chest, freeing up the cash they needed to invest heavily in that big brand pivot we just talked about. Okay, so we've seen the storm and we've seen the strategy. Now for the moment of truth. Let's look at the numbers. Did the playbook actually work? And here it is. Take a look. Despite all those headwinds we talked about, Bata's revenue was incredibly stable. They basically ended the year right where they started. Now, in a market where a lot of your competitors are actually shrinking, just holding your ground, well, that's a huge victory. But a flat revenue line doesn't tell you the whole story. The company also showed just how financially strong it is by staying committed to its investors. And that's always a great sign of a healthy business. First off, during the year, they paid out an interim dividend of 10 rupees for every share. And then, to top it off, the board recommended a final dividend of another 9 rupee per share at the end of the year. When you add all that up, you're looking at a total payout of around 1.16 billion rupees. Think about that. In a tough year, to return that much money to shareholders, that is a massive signal of confidence from the top about the company's stability and its future. You know, a company's report card these days is about more than just the money, and Bata's report really goes out of its way to paint a picture of who they are as a responsible member of the community. So according to them, they really stand on two main pillars. One is financial performance, driving value for stakeholders, which we just saw, but the other is just as important, creating a positive impact on society and the environment. And their commitment here is pretty broad. Their social responsibility programs are focused on everything from healthcare and sanitation to education, vocational training, fighting poverty, and even promoting sports. And let's put a human face on all this. As of the end of March 2025, Bata had almost 4,000 permanent employees on its payroll. And it's clear they're investing heavily in their people. The report points to good labor relations, a big investment in employee training with their own e-university, a brand new headquarters. They've even won awards for their diversity programs. They're clearly trying to build a strong company from the inside out. So, after a year spent playing defense and strategically repositioning the brand, what's next for Bata? Let's take a look at the road ahead. First, the opportunity is just massive. The Indian footwear market is set to explode, projected to be worth over $90 billion by 2030. So Bata is playing in a field that's getting bigger by the day. And this quote right here might be the single most important sentence in the entire report. This is the big cultural shift that makes their whole strategy make sense. People aren't just buying shoes because their old ones wore out. They're buying them as a fashion statement to express themselves. That shift, from utility to fashion, is the exact wave Bata is now positioned to ride. Which brings us right to our final question. Bata spent a year proving it could stand its ground in a storm. They pivoted the brand, they tightened up their operations, they held steady. Now, with a huge market growth on the horizon and a consumer mindset that's shifting perfectly in their direction, the real question is Bata finally ready to stop walking and start sprinting?